Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to give you the invitation link to the Foundry VTT thing. I'll post it in the chat in the Zoom. So if you pay, as usual, if you paste that into your browser window, it should bring up a window where it'll ask you to select what player you are. Just pick your own name. You don't need to pick any specific character, because obviously we haven't made any yet. And I'm hoping you'll be able to see a nice star map thing.
Up to 50% off selected products, an extra 20% off the choice of floors and beds. Getting it fitted in time for Christmas. Carpet right for life.
Okay, so everyone looking all right with that? Can you all see the map? Or
Yeah.
Lovely. I can see you all moving your cursors around on the map. It's just a basic map. You won't be able to interact with anything apart from the green target, which can obviously be moved around, because that's going to be where you guys are at any particular time. Standard shit. I mean, the idea is, obviously I canvassed you guys early on to find out that the majority of people wanted a bit more of a Star Wars vibe.
Yeah.
So I've used a random website called Sectors Without Number to generate this map, and then I've just gusset it up a little bit. Okay, so in terms of, obviously this is running off of sort of the old D&D sort of style vibe.
Yeah.
Just shut down my browser, save me a bit of a bandwidth. Yeah, so in terms of, obviously it's a class and level based system. What I've done is I've created a sort of template for each of the classes, which has everything in it for the first level of that class except for your attribute scores. So pretty much all you need to do is decide what class you're playing. I'll then make one of these, I'll make a copy of this template, make it available to you, drop your stats in. We'll have to sort out some equipment, but then you're pretty good to go, to be honest. I'm going to use a bit out of the White Star Companion here, which is basically a very super simple way. It's called a serial. It's a super simple way of doing a life path thing to determine a bit of background for you. And you can either roll those or you can choose them. But we'll go into that a bit later. So in terms of the classes that are available, guys, and we'll get round to discussing which ones you actually want once we've talked about what sort of group you want to do. But just give you a flavour. There's the Alien Brute, which is your Klingon, your Wookiee, your big, strong, powerful aliens. And obviously, I'm hoping to get a bit of input from you guys. If you say, I want to play an alien, I'm probably going to ask you some questions about what your alien species is like. And there's no real wrong answers, because we're sort of creating the setting all between ourselves anyway. But just keep in mind, we're basically going for a Star Wars with the serial numbers filed off. So that sort of vibe, but obviously you don't have to make it a copy of a Wookiee or a copy of a fucking Klingon or whatever. We have the Alien Mystic, which is your more intelligent, sort of slightly psychic alien. We then have the sort of the human classes. We have the Aristocrat, which is obviously all about inspiring people and using your clout as a noble. We have the Mercenary, pretty obvious what that is. The Pilot, again pretty obvious. There's the Robot, which is your sort of Star Wars droid. And if you pick a robot, you get to pick which sort of type of robot you are. So protocol droid, combat droid, that sort of stuff. And then we have the Star Knight, which I'm sure you'll all be surprised to know is basically a Jedi.
No.
yeah, I know. How it's shocking, isn't it? Although I've mentioned this to Johannes before. I ran this for a one shot at UK Games Expo, and we had an Asian lad who didn't really know much about RPGs, but he was I like a bit of Star Wars, so we'll run some White Star, and I just had some pre-gen characters, and he was I don't really know, I'll just take this one. And he was like looking at his character, he didn't really say much for like the first 5 minutes of the game. And then like when the first encounter went off, he was like, so I'm a Jedi? And I was like, yeah, pretty much, mate. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, oh, this star sword on here. I was like, yes, it's a lightsaber, mate.
Yeah.
You enjoy yourself. Go for it. And as soon as I told him that, I was like, it's basic D&D. Don't worry too much about the rules. Just say what you want to do. And if I need to, I'll say, roll me this dice, and I'll tell you what happens. And he was fucking backflipping everywhere, like chopping through doors with lightsabers and shit. He was just like, oh, can I do this? I was like, can a Jedi? The best way to put this, what sort of like group dynamic are we looking for? Like, because if we want to get like full Star Wars and you guys are like, oh, we want to be like the Rebel Alliance fighting against like an evil empire, I'm fucking down with that. I can go for that. That's absolutely fine. But if you're like, oh, we want to be like the Han Solo, like fucking scummy smugglers or whatever, or we want to be like a criminal cartel or whatever, within those classes, we've got a fairly broad range of like things you could do. And the advantage to like using an actual Star Wars system is that a lot of them are sort of slanted towards a particular type of play, whereas this game really isn't. So like, I'm going to have to do a little bit more legwork to adapt it, because like, there's not all the stuff there for it. But if you guys are like, oh yeah, one of us is going to play like an aristocrat who's like the face of the group, but it's like a criminal cartel and we're like drug runners or whatever, that's fine, we can run with that. If you're all like, oh, we all want to be Star Knights and like we're trying to restore like the Jedi Order, that's fine, we can do that as well. So what sort of like group dynamic would you guys fancy, basically? I mean, like I said, there's no wrong answers, it's just a brainstorming session, this really. So has anyone got any thoughts with regards to like what sort of vibe you'd be looking for in the game? So we've established Star Wars, but there's a lot within that sort of umbrella.
I'm kind of keen on that kind of Han Solo, Firefly, small ship, kind of bouncing both sides of the law kind of stuff, you know.
It's a small crew doing incredible things.
Yeah. As opposed to we're the Rebel Alliance and we're blah 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 blah. That gives us scope for lots of different types of things, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if we want to go for something like that, there's no reason why we can't go. We're still going to have like the Star Wars background, like the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, because as we know from the films, when they first meet like Han Solo, he has like fuck all to do with the Rebel Alliance. He's just like, I'm just doing my thing, trying to make ends meet, flying around with my Wookiee. You know, just like trying to like make enough money to pay off Jabba the Hutt and whatever.
Yeah.
One thing I am going to say is, obviously, spaceships in the game are fairly expensive, but you guys will like need a ship to get around. Now, there is one choice, there is one option on this sort of life path like role for like your characters that can lead like, I've inherited a ship, and you start with a freighter. If no one gets that, I'm still going to say you have a ship, but it will just be like a case of like you owe money to someone for like getting you that ship, so you start off like with a debt that you need to pay back. But you will be starting with a ship, because I don't see the point of like running a space game and like you're not having a ship. That's like me running like a fantasy D&D game and being like, yeah, no one starts with any weapons.
Yeah, kind of hard to get around without a ship, all right.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Especially when you consider like the vast distances involved in a sort of sci-fi game. And obviously, as you know from playing my OSE game, I like to run like a hex scroll game where I'm just like, right, I've populated this map. go out and explore and do whatever you want as a group. I'm not going to tell you, like, oh, you've got to go on this adventure. Oh, fucking sci-fi Gandalf turns up and he's like, I've got a mission for you, adventure. None of that bullshit. Which has the downside of, obviously, like, the players have to be, like, more proactive and, like, going out and finding stuff. But it also means you're not going to constantly have me trying to, like, steer you into, like, a particular plot line.
Yeah.
And I'm basically using the similar philosophy to this, only instead of exploring hexes on, like, a continent map like we do in OSC, you've got a sector map of space. And whilst we might not have the same level of exploration when you get to a planet, because I'm not going to map out every individual planet, it's going to be down to you guys to be like, oh yeah, we're going to go to, like, this system, or like, oh, we're going to go here, or we're going to do this. And obviously, if you rock into a space station and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to look for some, like, trading jobs or bounties or whatever, I'll provide those, and you can make your choice about which one you want to go on. That's absolutely fine. But I'm not going to sort of have someone, like, run up to you and be like, please, save the cheerleader, save the world. Okay, so Rob suggested, like, a small ship and a crew with a bit more of sort of Han Solo, like, independence vibe.
Yeah.
How's everyone else feeling about that? Has anyone got any other suggestions, anything they want considered? Because, like I say,
I'm always for the cartels, John, but, you know, I'm happy to move along with what people want.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose the thing is as well, if you're sort of like rogues, you know, sort of like doing your own thing, obviously we know, like, your Han Solo type, you deal with, like, who you deal with to, like, get the money to them. So there probably will be times when you'll take, like, criminal jobs, because that's what's going to pay the money. So, how about yourself, Johannes?
Well, if we are going with elements of Star Wars, and we're going to be doing the odd job here and there on basically no... Well, based on probably the fact that we have a ship and there's a huge loan and there's a fat space slug somewhere trying to turn us into Bantha Voodoo, it's probable that we will be shooting the evil empire at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I wanted in this game, which... Yeah, if we are criminals, they are the authority, so...
Yeah.
There's going to be some customs inspections that probably turn into firefights, is what I'm saying.
Well, like I said, I know you were keen on the sort of Empire and Rebellion background, so even though you guys aren't starting off as like, yes, we're like a rebel cell, we'll have that in the background. And you know me, any excuse to, like, do an NPC who sounds a bit like Emperor Palpatine, I'm fucking all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got that down. Have any of you thought about what sort of character you might like to play? As I've said, the very broad background for this setting that I've sort of done at the minute is basically all of these races were sort of taken from their homes by, like, a sort of ancient precursor race, and eventually they rebelled and they broke free of this race who, like, disappeared. And then, whilst they were united while they were, like, fighting this race off, and they're like, yeah, we're all brothers together, we're fighting it. Of course, as soon as, like, the common foe had gone, they all, like, split off into their own, like, little empires and stuff like that. And the sort of galactic empire equivalent that obviously I'll name later on is basically just like the latest attempt by someone to, like, bring everything under one government for potentially villainous purposes.
Yeah, peace and order, John.
That's it. Obviously, in the game, we do have Star Knights, which are like Jedi, and they have their opposite number, Void Knights, which are basically the Sith. So, I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts about how much you want that sort of mystical, like, Jedi stuff to come into it. Because if you guys are like, we don't want any Jedi, we don't want any Sith, that's fine. We can still do, like, the Empire and the Rebellion without them. But obviously, if you guys do want them in the game, we can have them in the game, but I'll have to I'll work them into the background appropriately. When I say appropriately, I mean I'll rip off Star Wars shamelessly. Yeah, I would say it's difficult for me to imagine.
Yeah, and they did with, let's say, Rogue One. They only bring the Space Wizards at the end, really.
That wildly successful film.
Yeah, the only Star Wars film that's good.
Yeah,
you're probably right. Yeah. It's the only Star Wars film with war in it.
To be fair, I was entirely ambivalent about the film up until the minute like Darth Vader uncorks that kind of whoop ass at the end of the film, and then I was like, yeah, this is good. I like that because it always answered the question to me of like at the start of New Hope, like when you see Vader come onto like the ship. And all the rebels are like, "Oh my god, it's Vader!" And they're like firing and like shitting themselves. When I first saw that, I was like, "I don't understand why they're so scared. He's not done anything. He's just like walked slowly down a corridor and like blocked their like blaster bolts." But when you see like Rogue One and he's like throwing people into the ceiling and just like hacking people down and they've been like running away from him, I was like, "Oh, now it makes sense. Yeah. I'll be scared." So yeah, I really like that because it didn't try and replace anything from the original. It just added like an extra dimension to it, which I feel some of the later films like Solo and stuff like that, they're basically all about like, hey, remember Solo's blaster? Hey, look at that. Hey, remember how we didn't know how he got his name? Hey, look at that. Hey, here's something you know about. Whereas Rogue One like felt like it was just telling its own sort of story. Ironically,
it was new stuff.
Yeah,
like it was about something we knew about, but it was a new story.
Yeah.
Add Donnie Yen in it.
Yeah. And well, anyway, the movie structure is the only one that I can actually like point at and say, oh, that seems like a movie that someone spent some time thinking about.
It did make me laugh with Donnie Yen when people were like, oh, I wonder if like Donnie Yen's got force powers. I'm like, his character's supposedly blind. Have you seen him in the film?
The dude lived in a holy city of the Jedi as a blind monk. The fuck are you talking about?
I'm not saying he's a Jedi. All I'm saying is he's blind. He's got a stick. Did you just see him take out that like squad of stormtroopers on his own without breaking a sweat? Of course, he's got like force. Yeah. The only one
only says it like 16 million times in the movie.
The only person I thought was a bit wasted in that film was Sol Guerrero.
Oh yeah, he got such little screen time. I thought he might have been like the thing, but he was just a springboard, really.
Because basically, like, there's that whole bit where he's like, where they're like going to blow up the planet, and he's like, "Save the dream."
Got a good actor as well.
Yeah, like Forrest Whitaker.
Like what the? No, he's gone.
It was like it did leave me wondering. I was like, I mean, obviously I know Disney's got more money than God, but I was like, could they like not afford Forrest Whitaker for like more than like an hour or some shit? Because like they put him in all those like expansive like prosthetics and like armor and stuff, which can't have been cheap to make.
No,
and then he's on screen for like 5 minutes. What the fuck's that about?
It's wild. There's some interesting things that happen when money is no object.
Yeah,
it's just someone just goes like, oh, let's hand Tom Cruise an entire movie franchise that is supposed to kind of compete with, I don't know, like Marvel and stuff. Bad call. Bad call.
I've still not watched that film. I can't bring myself to watch it. I like the one with I like the one with what's it, Fraser in it too much. The Brendan Fraser in the original.
Yeah. That movie has some interesting and nice visuals in it, but it's offensively stupid in the writing.
Oh yeah,
it's actually like in the first 15 minutes, I was like, Don't turn it off. Stay on target.
Yeah, a little closer. The thing is, it's like if you're going to make a film like The Mummy, and let's face it, like The Mummy is someone wrapped in bandages. They're not fucking scary. If you're going to do it like the Brendan Fraser films where it's like tongue in cheek and it's a bit pulpy and like, you know, that there's a bit of comedy in it and there's a bit of action in it. You can't make it into like a serious horror film, but because like it's a fucking person in like bandages. So, even like Imhotep in like the Brendan Fraser one, he's not that scary. Yeah, it's cool to see like the big wall of sand with his like face in it and the scarabs and all that, but it was all like quite tongue in cheek and quite sort of like almost like poking a bit of fun at itself. So like, you know, oh yeah, we don't have to take this too seriously. Oh, let's just focus on enjoying it. Whereas then they're like, oh, here comes the new Mummy film. It's all dark and grim and serious. I was just like, nope.
Yeah,
that'll do, mate.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise is doing it.
Yeah.
Take this jumper off.
That's the true horror.
Yeah.
I guess it's the one downside to having your fucking office directly above the kitchen in like the warmest room in the fucking house. Unfortunately, if I open my window wide at the minute, it will sound like it's fucking Beirut here because everyone's lighting off fireworks.
Oh yeah, because you have your. What? Wait a minute. Why is it now?
Guy Fawkes night.
It's basically you know like how what people normally do is like if like November the 5th's in a week, normally people will be like, oh, you know, we're like at work and stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
So like quite a lot of families and stuff will do it either like the weekend before or like the weekend afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think during like lockdown, like people are just like so desperate for like something to do. They're like, shit, we've got an excuse.
Yeah.
That's just generally kids, though, mate. If they get all some fireworks, they'll set them off.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got at the minute, Rob is interested in like the small ship, the crew, so like rogues, like doing your own thing. Dave, you're fine with that, but you're leaning a bit more towards the cartels. Yeah, combine them. Yanis, you want to see like the sort of the Empire and the rebels. We'll put that in the background. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and it doesn't asterisk. It doesn't even need the rebels in it. Honestly, like
Just the Empire.
Yeah, we could just have the man from whom to steal.
Well, yeah, there's definitely obviously if you're doing like shady like smuggling shit, like you say, there's obviously going to be like the authorities of some variety because like you've got to have that if you're doing smugglers, because otherwise you're not smugglers, you're just like
you're traders.
you're just traders. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if there's no law that you occasionally have to skirt around, it's not smuggling. It's just like exchanging goods.
Yep.
Which
But you enjoy the like the faceless authority in space, like sort of being there, and we see this in Star Wars as well. Like the Empire is an occupying force, which occasionally like gets into like whatever happens on the planet, but usually they're just like content with setting up an outpost, really, and like the stormtroopers, and let the locals do their own shit, and then whenever they don't like it, they just shoot everyone. But it's mostly them being the spaceport police.
Well,
whatever.
One thing I was going to suggest, obviously we're setting this in like a discrete sector of space. One thing I was going to suggest is if we want to go with the whole like empire thing, is effectively have this as like a frontier sector where they'll be like, yeah, okay, there's like planetary governors who like work for the Empire and they've got the stormtroopers and whatever, but like they can't just like get on the communicator and be like, send me a fleet of Star Destroyers, sort of thing.
Like, yeah, where's the taxes from the last year? Okay, no Star Destroyers.
Yeah, so they will have like a few decent starships, but it's not like if you like step a foot outside the law, like the full might of like the Imperial Navy is going to come crashing down on you.
Yeah, no, it's too big, and that's one of the things that allows, I guess, like the cartels to live, is because there's just too much ground to cover. It's not feasible to actually police all of space.
I think the ironic thing is as well with these sort of like frontier sectors is like generally the like planetary governors aren't that keen to like ring up the main sort of like imperial capital. And how can you send us some help? Because like the first thing they'll get asked if they have to do that is like, why haven't you sorted this problem out? You're like the planetary governor.
Yeah, no news is good news.
Yeah, so we put you in charge so like we didn't have to deal with this shit directly.
Yep.
So, as you say, that gives a bit more space for like criminal cartels, smugglers, and people like that to operate, where they know they can sort of like they can bend the law, they can sort of work around the law, but you know, obviously you don't want to get too big because, as we've saw with like the sort of Rebel Alliance in the Star Wars films, once it starts becoming like a credible threat, the like planetary governors and that are like, all right, okay, yeah, well, we've got no choice but to call in the big guns now because like we need this dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they'd have stayed small and like below the radar, it'd have made some things more difficult for them, but they probably could have like built up their forces a little bit more. Obviously, I know there was time pressures in the film, like the Death Star.
Yeah, and it's always, this is my number one problem. It's always like 15 minutes. That's enough time to do anything in that world.
Apart from if you're talking about like the latest 3 films, when it's just like all you got to do is wait for the end, and like everyone in the universe will turn up and help you somehow.
Yeah,
because they all know where you are somehow, and they can all get to the planet that no one can get to somehow.
Yeah.
That was the bit when the last movie really fucking lost me, when they were like, everyone's turning up to help, and I was like, no.
Bring back the cyber zombie.
Just like fucking that everyone's come to help, and I'm like, what'd you do? Like get on like fucking Galaxy like WhatsApp and just be like, oh, everyone, here's where we are, and here's like the navigation data. Like, can you come and help us in the next 10 minutes?
They're all on Zoom, mate.
Yeah, that's it. It's like a massive Zoom chat. Admiral Akbar's there like, is my microphone on? You need to use push to talk, Admiral. Okay, so we've got small ship, cartel, empire, and possibly rebels, we don't know. A frontier sector with like imperial governors. Obviously there will be systems that aren't sort of officially held by the empire as well. So like
free ports.
Yeah, so there'll be like smugglers' free ports. Obviously there'll be places like you have like the Hutts pretty much like run certain planets, like even if there actually is an imperial governor. It's like obviously they're not in charge, like the cartels are in charge. There'll be like planets like that which are criminal running in all but name, basically. Do we want to have Jedi and Sith in it?
Of course we do.
How are people feeling?
Yeah. Space Wizard.
Okay. I'll make a note of that. Is there anything, just to like flip it a bit, is there anything anyone definitely doesn't want to see in the game? So we've talked a bit about the things we do want to see. Is there anything where anyone's like, come on, that you'd prefer not to see?
No, I think really happy enough to see anything, really. I don't.
Excellent. That's grand then. That's fine by me.
Yeah, I can't come up with anything.
I've got it. I had a think earlier and I couldn't think of anything. So
yeah, because I was thinking like what would be in, because we're talking about Star Wars here, like anything in Star Wars that I wouldn't want.
Jar Jar Binks.
Hey mate,
yeah, I guess
we get, since we're going to be streaming the game, there is no way I'm doing like a ridiculously racist accent on the stream, man. Okay, I'll be like demonetized in a hot second if I come on. I'm like, Misa running Star Wars. Bam.
No,
that's not. Which is a shame they went with the goofy accents, because I think if it hadn't been for that and the obvious comedy character, like the race could have actually been quite interesting. There was some like good stuff in there which you like wiped away like the layers of crap.
Yeah, and you don't get enough fish people in general, like sort of aquatic species in sci-fi.
I quite like the idea as well, like when they're trying to persuade him and they're like, oh look, like if they take down the Naboo, they're like coming for you next, and like fucking Boz Naz or whatever his name is. It's just like, oh, the Naboo, fuck them. What have they ever done for us?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, we have to live under the water and they don't want anything to do with us. What the fuck they do? And I quite like the idea of these two races and they just have nothing to do with each other until they're basically forced to like work together and they get a bit of the fucking Jedi mind trick on them and whatever. Okay, so in terms of characters, what are we feeling in terms of classes, guys? If you need me to go through them again, let me know.
I've kind of thinking about an engineering type, probably mercenary as the class.
Okay.
Because none of the other classes are kind of anyway suitable. But yeah, kind of leaning towards that, keeping the ship running style.
Okay. I'll make a copy of the mercenary and set that so you can all see it. Configure permissions. There we go. All players. Right, hopefully in the menu on the right, if you click on the little icon that looks like 3 people, it'll say Actors Directory. You should see a character sheet that's just got your name on it, Rob.
Yeah.
And that's basically, it's got everything in it for a level 1 mercenary except the stats, basically.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so Dave, what are you thinking of?
I'm happy to do pilot or
So it's up to you, mate. Just pick which one you want.
I'm happy to be pilot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me make a copy of one of those for you. There we go. And how about yourself, Johannes?
Still haven't quite settled on a particular one. There's that problem with this variety of games that you could do a whole bunch of different things with a bunch of different characters because the classes aren't that expansive.
Yeah, it's true.
So I was thinking Alien Mystic, but I don't think I'll go that route. We do have a mercenary, which is almost already good for that kind of thing. No, every
You can always do with more mercenaries.
yeah, that is very true. Okay.
Do we need a captain, or do you think we just want to be kind of...
Well, there's no mad rush, Johannes, so just take a bit of time to think about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you want to go down the mysticism route, there's pretty much like the Mystic Alien or the Star Knight, like the 2 Mystic classes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was looking at the Alien Mystic, which has some of the spicy, like, low-level D&D stuff, which is the I win buttons, but otherwise it's fairly... like that is a class that is fine-tuned to do the, like, oh, this is the savage mystic that we picked up. Like, this is the shaman from the alien culture on this backwater swamp planet. But not a necessary thing.
There's no reason why you have to be like a primitive alien.
Yeah, and I know, and I was actually going to suggest that it would have been because it says like, oh, like maybe they're like near humans. I was gonna say like maybe they are genetically restructured human beings, but I think so. Popular vote. Which one do we want? Aristo or Star Knight?
It'd be a Star Knight.
Does anyone know what Kelly wants to play?
Kelly will quite happily play mercenary, whatever you want, basically.
Well, yeah. Let's. Also, it's a game where people fucking die, so I'll start off with a Star Knight. So,
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Let me just make a copy of that for you.
What you're talking about, Johannes, I haven't died in almost 3 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we can get 3 heavy hitters and a pilot, we should be okay.
I was looking at the Aristo. That has some juicy stuff, and at 4th level, you get a couple of mercenaries as bodyguards, which that looks spicy.
It's getting there.
Yep. Anything for hirelings in a game like this?
Well, as you've recently been discussing in the OSE game, there is no reason once you've made a bit of money you can't just be like, we're going to hire some like people.
Yeah.
And obviously you do have one small advantage that like your fantasy sort of like equivalents don't have, the big spaceship.
Yeah. And infinite space.
Yeah. It's not like in like OSE where you're like, oh shit, like if we're going to go into a dungeon, if we get trashed in there and we've got no healing, that's it, bad times. In this, it's like you can always try and get back to the ship and just like fuck off somewhere else. And obviously you'll have things in this game like medikits and stuff that you can buy that like you can't really just buy in like fantasy. Like you can't just like buy loads of healing potions. But obviously in this, because science, you can just like, oh yeah, we just buy like a load of medikits and like shit like that. So it is a little more slanted towards survivability, but obviously it's still an old school game. You don't start with mad amounts of hit points. I've set all the classes to like have the max hit points for level 1. So you don't have to worry about like rolling them and getting like a 1 or a 2 or anything like that. Just I thought that there's going to be people like blasters and like laser guns and stuff like that. So
cool. And do we think that there'll be kind of ship combat and that sort of stuff, or is it?
There probably will be at some point, yeah.
Okay.
But again, it depends on what you guys do.
Yeah. I guess it was more, for whether we thought the ship should be like a fully armored yoke or more of a speed.
What you'll be starting with is like a basic like medium freighter, which I'll go into the stats for that in a bit. But obviously, as you get money, you can like add extra shit to your ship. So if you're like, oh yeah, we want to like stick some extra laser cannons on it, you've just got to get the money to be able to do that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so let's get some stats rolled then. Okay, so all of your stats, strength down to charisma, are all set at 10 at the minute, just as like the basic. You should see on the icons on the left there is like a little polyhedral dice. If you click on that, it'll give you like options as to what dice you can roll. You can just click on them to like roll them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. And anything you roll will pop up on the right if you click on the speech balloon on the right. So in terms of attributes, it's the standard stuff. You all know how it works. You roll 3d6 for each of your attribute. What I'm going to say though, guys, is you roll 3d6 6 times to get your numbers, but you can like allocate them to whatever stats you want rather than having to just like roll them in order. And you can roll them using normal dice or online, or whatever you see fit.
Can I roll 3d8s?
You what?
Can I roll 3d8s?
No.
Okay, well that's a fucking terrible start. Oh, I'll take that.
Stop throwing dice at me.
I've got to admit, one of the things I do find amusing with like the 3D dice, and this is like if they hit other dice, they like behave like dice would behave. Which I was like, obviously there's no earthly so it doesn't change your result, like, but there's no earthly reason to put that in. But like, I like the fact that people who made the module have just like put it in.
Huh?
There we go, done mine.
Okay. So just bang them down in your character sheet.
Yep.
And most of you, if you look at the abilities tab on your character sheet, you will get an XP bonus for having like a high ability in a certain score. So for like Johannes for the Star Knight, if you have like a wicked high wisdom, you can get like if you have 15 plus in your wisdom, you get like an extra like 10% in that XP. So it's worth bearing that in mind when you're allocating your stats. I mean, you can put them wherever you want, but it's worth bearing in mind. And obviously once you guys have rolled them and you've got all your stats written in, we'll then roll on the sort of the serials or sort of like background list. I like the fact because I've got like two screens open with this on, and like the one obviously I've got running on my computer, like not in the browser, is like running quicker. So when you guys are clicking on the dice, I hear like on that one screen, but like nothing appears on the screen I'm looking at until like a second later. And as I said, I've used a website called Sectors Without Number that has randomly generated this map, and I've just dropped some extra icons on there, and it sort of randomly determines like what the systems are like, but what you can effectively like re-roll like the random stuff that I've got because I've got the sector stored on the website. So what I'll do is, now we've worked out, yeah, we want like an imperial area, an independent area, and whatever, I'll go on, I'll have a look in at any that don't make sense. I'll just sort of like re-roll them until we get something that works.
Do we think it'll be more rifles and blasters and than kind of these mono axes and mono swords and
yeah,
like
it's probably going to be more sort of like blasters and stuff like that in terms of like equipment.
Okay.
Now the only unfortunate thing is because we're using like an old school Essentials rule system because it's the nearest they've got for Foundry, the virtual tabletop, is like I'm going to have to like create the equipment. So what we'll do is when we come to the equipment, we'll get you guys to work out how much cash you've got, and I'll just write down like on my pad what equipment you want to buy, and then between this and the first session I'll put all the equipment on there. I've just not had a chance to do it yet, unfortunately, and then I can drop that into your sheet, so when we come to the first game you'll have all your shit there ready to go. But yeah, I mean, mono daggers and swords and all that stuff, like all the equipment in here will be available. But since we're going for like the Star Wars vibe, it'll probably be more like, yeah, like you say, like your blasters and like your laser pistols and your laser rifles and stuff like that.
Okay.
How's everyone coming on with their stats?
Done, mate.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so.
Oh, that's not bad. Well, you've not rolled below 10 yet, yeah? So you're doing all right.
Oh, there we go.
There's always one.
I should come and mash it, shouldn't I?
Yeah, but this is just the one.
Yeah,
With
that's true, yeah.
yonder jackdaw barely could stand up.
My stats are so... Fair play to you, though, for just going, yeah. That's what I've got. Let's go.
And it was great. I enjoyed that thoroughly. It was
It's why it always
some of
makes
the fun times.
It's why it always makes me laugh, because I've played no end of like basic D&D characters. I'm like, whatever my stats are, like if I don't have them hit points, like I can still die dead easily anyway, regardless of my stats. So in a way, I find it quite freeing when I'm playing old school D&D, because it's like it doesn't really matter if I've got low stats, but I can like have fun playing it.
Yeah. And it was pretty funny being like, oh, 3rd level. How many hit points do you have? 3. Great. Nice.
That's it. Let's go adventuring. Oh, it looks a bit cold outside. I think the vapors may take me.
Stubbed my toes.
Okay, so if you'll bang your stats in on your character sheet,
Yeah.
and we shall get on with the serials. Okay, so all of these rolls are like D6 rolls. So the first one is for your home world to determine like what sort of world you were born on. So if you can all roll me a D6, please, just a single D6.
6.
Oof, Dave,
Yeah.
you were born on a dangerous world. Your home world is a dangerous one, dominated by natural dangers such as lava flows or cataclysmic environments like radiation clouds. You had to be keen-eyed to survive and had little time for niceties or politeness. You get a +1 wisdom and a -1 charisma. Okay.
+1 wisdom, so that's 11.
Okay, so what did you...
-1 charisma.
Yeah, so what did you get, Giannis?
Me and Rob both got 2.
Okay, so the two of you were both born on a high gravity world. Your world had a heavier gravity than most. You are stronger for it, able to lift weights and have more mass. However, you're slower and less precise than other creatures. You both get a +1 strength and a -1 dexterity. Because you're like...
I need to start working on my space Scottish accent.
I was born on a heavy gravity world, donkey! Okay. So the next one is family. So what your relationship with your family is like. And again, it's a single D6 roll.
3.
3. Most of your family is dead or missing, Dave.
Makes sense, yeah.
If fate... All right. Sorry, on a second, I'm checking this. All right, so the way this works, which is a little bit odd, when designing an adventure, the referee has the option to select one character, which I'll probably do randomly, and secretly roll a saving throw on behalf of the player. Using the modifier listed above, the results of the saving throw determine whether or not a player character's family member becomes involved in the adventure.
Oh.
So for you, Dave, like you don't get to make a saving throw because like most of your family's dead. So a family member arrives during an adventure and can complicate the situation for you. Okay, so Johannes, what did you get? Same. Yeah. Most of your family's dead or missing.
Sorry, I don't know why I rolled 2.
Sorry, mate, just pick which one you want.
3.
Same.
So we're all same. Okay.
Yeah, so all of you, perhaps that's what's
So we all
bonded you all
escaped from the
together.
same orphanage, right?
You're all sort of sat together in the space cantina, and like Dave's character's like, Oh, yeah. So how are you guys doing? Oh, yeah, just here, because most of my family's died. Wait a minute. Like, all three of you are looking at each other like, it must be fate. It's the Way, which is the name of the force in White Star.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of your family members are dead. Right, okay, that's bizarre. Okay, so the next one is a brief description of like what you got up to in your youth. So again, it's a D6 roll.
We all stepped off the protagonist factory line.
That's it.
1.
3 again.
Okay, so with a 1, Dave, you were sold into slavery in your youth. You gain an extra hit point per level, so obviously you get an extra 1 now, first level.
Yeah.
And you should be able to see that in the little sort of... Oh yeah, there it is. So I'll just add an extra 1 on for you. Boom, there we go. It's the weird sort of parabola with the 7s in now for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you get? Sorry, Rob?
I
3.
got a 3. Yeah.
Okay, you are a refugee in your youth. You can find food and water in urban environments on a roll of 1 to 2 on a D6.
Okay.
So, obviously, because I've got this recorded, when I play this back, I'll add that as an ability to your character sheet. How about yourself, Johannes?
5.
When you were young, you were swept off to adventure. You can add +1 to any attribute of your choice.
Well, now.
Nice.
Not bad, not bad. So I was picked off from the orphanage probably by someone called Pen Genopi.
That's it. Hello, I'm Ken Bonobi.
Yes, I am undercover. No, I'm Ben Kenobi.
That's it. Okay, so on to the next one, which is your first adventure. Now, this is like adventures you had before the start of the campaign, not before you all came together. So again, it's a D6. There's only a few more of these. Okay, so 2, your first adventure, you stowed away on a starship. You can remain silent while still and sort of remain unnoticed on a roll of 1 to 2 on a D6. So I'll add that as an ability into your character sheet.
Cheers.
How about yourself, Rob?
1.
You were captured by outlaws. You are able to pick mechanical locks on the roll of 1 to 2 on a D6. So again, I'll add that. Johannes?
Yep, same.
Okay, yeah, so you were also captured by outlaws and can pick locks.
And people.
Yeah. I was spirited away by Ken Bonobi and then captured by outlaws. There's blatantly going to be an NPC called Ken Bonobi in this game.
Yeah, captured by the band people.
Yeah.
Some roadies took me.
That's it. Okay, so the okay, so there's only 3 more of these left. The next one is adversaries. These are like enemies and people you've crossed in the past. Again, it's a D6.
4.
You have crossed paths with a hostile alien. You have angered a dangerous non-human who wishes to do you harm.
We all got the same thing, so
they did.
it's blatantly a hut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be some sort of like big hostile alien like syndicate who like you've all crossed. That's absolutely grand. And obviously, what I'm going to do on my day off tomorrow, I'm going to listen back to the recording of all this, and anything I need to add to your character sheets, or like anything I need to note down, I'll do it then. Okay. So the next one is allies, like people you've like made a good impression of. Again, D6.
6.
Okay, 6. You have a mysterious corporate benefactor with deep pockets but unknown motivations. You can call on the aid of your benefactor once per level by making a saving throw. If successful, you receive temporary resources up to 10,000 credits times your level, but you then owe them a favour.
Jesus, that's impressive.
Okay, Johannes, what are your...
Me and Rob both decided to go with a 4 for this one.
All right, you gotta love this. A wise and wary Star Knight looks on you with kind eyes, occasionally offering you wisdom. A retired Star Knight of 7th level serves as your instructor or allies, but you must keep his location a secret.
Rob,
So that's Ken Benobi, obviously.
are we family? We're from the same planet.
It feels like it.
It does feel like the way's sort of guiding you in that direction when you're both just like, yeah, we're the same. Yeah, we're the same.
Yeah. Should we go brothers? Cousins? Brothers?
Yeah, sure. Whichever we want to. What have we had in games recently? There's been brothers. I guess, yeah, it might be because obviously that would mean that our family is mostly dead. So I was thinking if we decide it's a more distant relation, let's say we're cousins, and our family is mostly dead, something might have happened to, I don't know, destroy our entire lineage, whatever that might have been.
Yeah.
I would say the obvious thing is since you're a Star Knight, is that was effectively detected by someone, and the Void Knights have wiped out your family in a sort of we must destroy the Jedi sort of vibe. And perhaps you were both rescued by Ken Benobi, who took you away to his secretive desert world, and realised gave you some training. Obviously, you weren't in touch with the way so much, Rob. But then he was I've trained you both up as best I can. I'm here if you need me, but the Empire needs to not know I'm here.
Yeah.
Because I'm hiding here, looking like an old man with a ragged brown robe on.
Yeah.
Skulking around moisture farms, staring at young boys.
Yeah. Scaring the locals.
Oh.
I love to imagine when I see that scene that the Sand People know it's Kenobi, and they're just that old guy's fucking mental. Let's just get out of here and we'll come back later. Yeah, and he's yes, I've scared away the Sand People, and they're really just
I think it's them going oh, it's old man Kenobi again. Quick, everyone, pretend to be scared. No!
Because when he's oh, I'm going to imitate the call of a crate dragon, it's yeah, but you're obviously a dude in a cloak. That's me going I'm going to imitate the call of a rhinoceros, and you just looking at me and being oh my god, he's obviously a rhino.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is critical event. So something important that happened in your life. And this is the last one. So roll your d6s. I'd just say re-roll that. I'm not going to make you roll a new character. Yeah. Okay, so Johannes got 3. Okay, so you have located a previously undiscovered hideout, the location of which is known only to you. You have a secret base that no one else knows about, such as an abandoned space station or an undiscovered planet.
Well, holy shit.
Nice.
We have a ship and a base.
Yeah. That's why it makes me laugh when it's these cereals are optional. I'm not.
Yeah, how come?
Why would you not just fucking use them? Because all it does is give you extra shit. So yes, have you any thoughts about what sort of form you'd like your secret base to take? Whether you want it to be a planet, a space station,
a killer base,
Star base.
Now witness the power of this fully operational secret base. Stop impersonating a dragon, Ken Benobi. You annoying scrot.
I'm halfway between like a space station that we have basically taken over, and like an old like Star Knight temple from yonder days, like, or it might even be like a structure of whatever the like the actual big intergalactic empire that fell a long time
like
ago.
a sort of precursor, sort of ancient like thing.
Yeah, like a precursor
that's doable.
ruin on some distant planet that is on no one's map.
All that's known, because it was so incalculably long ago that like these ancients like transported everybody, but like no one really knows anything about them, which is obviously an excuse for like ruins and ancient tech and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to have like a secret ancient base, that's fine. Because I mean, you might not even understand like how half the shit on the base works, but you know enough to like keep it going and like use it as a base.
And best of all, no one knows it's there. So
yeah. So pretty much, where would you like it to be on yon map?
I thoroughly enjoy this, John, because I know the technology you've used to create these. So I find it delicious that I now choose where it is, and you know what's there.
Yeah. Just basically pick a sector. It can be a blank one if you want. It might just be like in the middle of space. So if you just like hold down your left mouse button, you can ping which hex you want it in.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So so the spiral ones are black holes.
Yeah, the spiral ones are black holes. The other ones are star systems. Now they can still be sort of research bases and stuff in like systems with black holes, and occasionally the odd planet, but it's a lot rarer.
Yeah. So let's go with. Let's see. Let's go with that space.
Okay.
And reason being why no one has discovered it, because there's not a lot there in current modern charts that is valuable. So people don't really check. And of course, I probably found it. Well, I will have to have found it through some method, which.
Ken Bonobi gave you a dodgy crystal.
Yeah. Oh, can you go pick up some power converters? And this is the address. It's like, oh, Ben.
Oh, you. I apparently can't spell. Yeah. There we go, so I've just quickly marked that down on the map. Obviously, I'll come up with a better name than Secret Ancient Base, but...
Yeah. So to
or you guys can come up with a fucking name, to be honest, because they know what it is.
Secret Ancient Base kind of does it for me, to be fair.
So what I was thinking is primordial jungle. Maybe this is the only ruin. We probably don't know, but there's
so you're thinking like planet side, yeah?
Yeah, planet side. Planet side, ancient precursor ruin, whose original purpose we probably have no idea about, but we can operate some of the basic systems there.
Yeah. Precursor ruin. Okay. Right, let me change that icon to a more planetary one then.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't specify.
It's all good. It's all good, man. I've got all these like free icons loaded in anyway, so it's not a problem.
Oh, that's handy.
That will probably do for the minute. There we go. Yeah, one thing to remember, guys, is as well is we've still got like Callie's character who also gets to roll on all those tables.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, depending on how things go, you may have like multiple secret bases or ships, depending on how Cal's rolls go, basically. And I presume you've got the. Did I make the companion available to you? So you've got the charts to roll on. I can't
Yeah, you
remember
do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
mate.
you did.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Well, obviously, you guys have got me on Facebook and you've got my number. So if you do need any help getting Kel to gen up a character, just like holler, basically. And basically, once you've got
Yeah,
Kel
it's
to like,
fairly easy, mate.
yeah, once you've got Kel to create a character, just like send it over me as like a Word or a text document or whatever, and I'll set up. Because unfortunately, you can't access this unless I'm like running it on my computer. But once you've sent it me on like Facebook as an attachment or whatever, I'll just like create the character. That's not a problem. Okay, so all that's really left for your characters, to be honest, now, because like I say, I'm going to add the other shit, is to basically get your equipment. Which, as I say, just like sort out what you want, because I haven't created all the equipment yet, so I will knock that up between time. You all start off with 3d6 times 10 credits. And the equipment starts on page 28 of the main rulebook that I've given you.
So 11 times 10.
Yep.
Yep.
And what I would suggest you do, guys, is in your character sheets, if you just write down in the notes section, you see basically all of you all have in your notes section, you've got like a brief description of what your class is. If either in the description or in the notes bit, you just write down what equipment you're buying, and I'll get it added to your sheet. Obviously, stick your cyber leg in there, Dave.
Yeah.
Because you get that for free, you don't have to pay for that. Actually, I'm going to look at what a cyber leg does.
In terms of food, then, do these ships generate food, or do we need to worry about that sort of stuff?
I don't believe they generate food. Let me just check. So you guys have got a light freighter, light transport. No, they wouldn't generate food, so you would need supplies of a sort, I assume. Yeah, and rations are listed on the thing. And I don't know for sure, to be honest, but I'm going to assume that for like every hex you move, because obviously it's like quite a long distance, you would need to like consume a ration.
Okay.
Because obviously the slight downside to like moving through space is obviously in like OSC, you're travelling like 10 miles or whatever, so you can move like 6 hexes and then be like, oh, a day's gone like nom nom nom. Whereas in this, sort of like you're moving like light years with each hex, so. Cyber leg. What's the betting they've put like cybernetics and some like separate thing. Because they can't have just anything in the content section that just says cybernetics. So that'd be not too sensible. The advanced equipment section is like the equivalent of like magic items in like D&D.
Yeah.
So like cybernetics and stuff, it's not stuff you can just roll up to like a space station and be like, give us a cyber eye.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a listed cost. It's not available for purchase at character creation. Obviously, you've got it because of your serial roll. Expensive and rare. Yeah, they're basically like treasure items that you go out and find rather than just normal equipment you buy.
Nice.
And obviously, I believe you start with a star sword. Johannes.
Yeah.
You should all have the default abilities for your class already on there. The only thing you'll need to pick, Johannes, is like your meditations. So you should have it. You've got the spells tab, which will effectively use for that.
I get fuck all at level 1. So
Yeah, I don't think you actually get any meditations at level 1, do you?
yeah,
As a
it's
star
just
knight.
Star Sword, and then level 2 is when the magic happens.
So. That's when you see like the ghost of like Ken Benobi.
So, John, are you using any of the house rules in the attributes section? I know that they've put
Let me have a look.
a house rule for every attribute.
Yeah, there's so many fucking house rules in this, man. House rule, Dex for armor class. Rolling attributes. Strength for combat. Right, I'm gonna throw it over to you guys. To be honest, I have no objection to using these house rules, but I think if we're going to use them, we should use either all or none of them. So the house rules in there are basically, if you're a mercenary or an alien brute, you can add your strength bonus to like your 2-hit roll, and like your damage with like handheld weapons. The house rule for intelligence, alien mystics can gain a bonus on like using their alien gifts. Wisdom, Star Knights can use the wisdom bonus to gain a bonus on like meditations.